Hello, and welcome to the Crafting Change Quick Sew class for the Adult Drawstring Backpack. This is for an adult unlined drawstring backpack with a finished size of approximately 16 inches wide by 19 inches high. Thank you for sewing with us, and let's get started. These are the 3 by 3 inch squares of material. Take it, fold it in half, and sew a 1/4 inch seam along one of the sides and back tack at the beginning at the end, and then turn that inside out and top stitch it so you have 2 cord tabs that look like this. And then what I want you to do is take one of these cord tabs, fold it in half, and then take 2 of the cording that you're going to put inside of there, lay it inside, fold the cord tab over it, and check to see where you're going to need to stitch this into the seam. Now make sure you've got enough room to move your cord up freely and not too tight and not too loose. And then I want you to mark that spot with a pen of where you want to stitch. And then simply take one of your straight pins and go ahead and mark that position, and repeat for the other cord tab. Now for your bag fabric, if you had to cut out 2 pieces instead of using 1 continuous piece, I want you to go ahead and seam this bottom. And then when you're done with that, I want you to sew all the way around the outside with a serger or a zigzag to encase the raw edges of this piece of fabric. Next, fold it in half lengthwise, and at the top, match up the top and take a measure and measure down 4 inches from the top, and just make a mark, because that's where you're going to stop sewing when you sew up, and then go ahead and pin it or clip it. And now at the bottom of one of these seams, you're going to be taking, remember, one of these tabs that we had marked where we want the stitching line to be, and on your fabric make your mark where your stitching line is going to be here, and go ahead and slide this tab inside this seam, and you're going to be lining up your stitching marks as best you can with having this all the way to the bottom but on the inside. So if you kind of take a peek there, kind of take a look at where it's going to be sewn, and mine's going to be about right here, and I want it down as much as I can next to this crease, and then those stitching lines matched up, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pin this, and that's where this is going to be sewn in, okay? And then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to stitch this seam. You're going to start at the bottom, sew over this tab and back and over a couple times to make this tab secure. You're going to sew up to the top and stop where you marked that 4-inch point. This is where you're going to stop, and then go ahead and back stitch and forward here once or twice to make this secure, and then you're going to leave this 4 inches open. Now that you have your side seam sewn and you left this opening, go to the iron and press this side seam open, and the seam allowance, press it down. So you've got this V opening here. And then come to your sewing machine and stitch this V seam allowance down. Start here, stitch down, go across, do that a couple times to reinforce the stress point, and then stitch back up. And repeat this for the other side. Now turn your bag right side out, and you'll be able to just pop those cord tabs right out, even with the bottom, and come up to the top edge. Take your sewing gauge or your measuring tape and measure down 1.5 inches and mark 1.5 inches across each of the tops. And this is where you're going to turn for your casing. So fold on that 1.5 inches, press it, and then out of this 1.5 inches, just take a little 1/4 inch and turn that under and press that as well. And now you've got your casing that you can clip or pin, and this will be stitched down. You'll want to stitch it right here on the edge. Be careful, don't run off, but stitch it right here on the edge and back tack it both at the beginning and at the end. So when it's done, you've got it finished at the top. You've still got this opening where we can put our cords, and this is stitched down and turned under so there's no ravels. The last thing we need to do for our drawstring bag, put in the drawstrings. Now I'm using a bodkin to help guide my cording, but you could use a safety pin or a loop turner and just catch that in, bring it through the bottom loop, come up the side, go through one of these channels, come around and go through the back channel, and then come back down on the side where you started. And you repeat that for the other edge. And when you're done on the bottom, simply take these and tie them into an overhand knot. And you can trim the edges or not depending on how you came out. If yours are too long, you can trim them off a little bit, but it won't hurt them if they're just a tad bit longer with those tails. And you are done. And so, boom, we've got the drawstring adult backpack. Now, thank you very much for sewing this, and thank you for all that you do to help us at craftingchange.org. We really appreciate it and hope you enjoyed this little mini video on the adult drawstring backpack. If you have any questions and want to get a hold of me, go ahead and email me at kathyl@craftingchange.org.